I wanted to talk today about why you may want to consider doing a liver cleanse, particularly if you have migraine headaches. The gallbladder acupuncture system, my gallbladder acupuncture system mannequin here, it actually starts in the foot and it runs up the body, but the most important part as it relates to migraines is it comes up the back of the head, goes over the head to the front of the forehead, comes back over to the back of the neck, goes up around the ear, and then up near the top of the temple, down near the ear, and then ends on the outside of the body, up near the corner of the eye up here. So it basically covers the whole head, and it does that on both sides. So if you have problems with your gallbladder system, you are going to have problems with migraines in many, many cases. The acupuncture systems will have pain or dysfunction along the system if there's a blockage of the energy. And there's a number of things that can block the energy. And in the gallbladder's case, the gallbladder acupuncture system's case, the dysfunction in the gallbladder itself will cause this. So we want to get rid of that dysfunction. And there's a really easy and relatively quick way to do that. But let me give you a little bit of a primer on how the liver and gallbladder work. They're paired and they work together. Here's the small intestine. This is supposed to be the gallbladder and the liver. I'm not much of an artist, so forgive me, but normally what happens is the liver produces bile in kind of a little trickle and not very much at one time, but it is stored in the gallbladder. And then when you eat a fatty meal, the gallbladder contracts. It's got muscles in it. It'll contract and push the bile out and helps your body digest the fat and helps it be absorbed and this sort of thing. And this is a normal process. If you have a diet that is a little bit higher in fat than it should be, and if you eat normal in our modern society, that is very, very likely that that will be the case, then your liver will tend to produce more bile and your gallbladder will tend to store more bile than it normally is capable of. So stones kind of form in here and sludge can form and it can just cause the gallbladder to kind of gunk up and not work properly. So the liver cleanse, part of the liver cleanse is drinking Epsom salt solution, which I'll show you how that's done here in a minute. But what that does is it helps relax the muscle that basically forms this tube. So when you eat a large amount of fat, and the liver cleanse includes part of that with the olive oil, I'll get into that, it forcefully contracts the gallbladder. And if this muscle is relaxed here, it will push out gallstones and they exit the body. And along with that, it'll also push out a lot of bile and a lot of gunk that just keeps this system from not working properly. And I've had hundreds and thousands, probably, patients do this cleanse and say, oh, that got rid of my migraines. That took care of it. I've had people do this and say they just feel more energy. Their skin clears up. There's just a number of benefits to doing a liver cleanse. So let's talk about how to do that. So the first thing you want to do is go to the store, buy some grapefruit juice, or you can get grapefruits and just basically squeeze them. Either way works. I like fresh squeezed a little bit better myself, but pre-made grapefruit juice in a container is no problem. That works just fine. I do recommend 100% grapefruit though, and not getting any kind of a cocktail or anything like that. It just works better. You want to also purchase some extra virgin olive oil and some Epsom salts. And these three together at any good grocery store are going to cost you probably around $10. So it's not a very expensive cleanse at all. Be sure that you get the Epsom salts that are made to ingest into the body. There are Epsom salts that are for the bathtub, and they have some scents in them, usually like a eucalyptus smell or something along those lines. You do not want to be taking that into your body, so beware of that. So now that you have all your ingredients, you get some warm water, that's here, and you just follow the steps on the liver cleanse sheet, which are very easy to follow, but be sure you do them in order. It's important for sure. So you want 4 tablespoons of Epsom salts, half a cup of olive oil, and 3/4 cup of the grapefruit juice. The first thing you want to do, and the cleanse says to do this at around 2 o'clock, but that's kind of a minimum. You can do it at 9 in the morning. It doesn't really matter. But you want to mix up your Epsom salts mixture. So you take your 4 tablespoons of Epsom salts, and I'm going to measure that out here. A little bit more. There we go. Okay, you get your 4 tablespoons of Epsom salts, and then you mix that into the warm water. And usually you want to stir that up a little bit and really make sure that your Epsom salts are nice and dissolved in the warm water. And then you put this in the refrigerator. So you kind of set that aside at that point. The reason you put it in the refrigerator, it goes down a lot easier when it's cold, when it's a cold solution as opposed to warm. It doesn't go down easy anyway. It has a real kind of a mineral taste to it, the magnesium does. It's not horrible, but it's sure not fun either, so keep that in mind. You can take a little bit of lemon and squirt in there if you want to, or this says vitamin C can improve the taste, like some ascorbic acid that I think you can pick up at any good drugstore, or you can open up some vitamin C capsules and put them in there. That'll help cut the taste a little bit, so that's an option. But you want this to be cold, so that is the most important part. And then once this is nice and cold, you start the cleanse at about 6 o'clock in the evening, and be sure you're following your sheet here. About 6 o'clock in the evening, you want to break your Epsom salts solutions up into 3 3/4 cup servings. Okay, so pour into a cup that you'll drink out of 3/4 of a cup of this stuff. And by this time it's cold, and at 6 o'clock you down that. Okay, this gets absorbed into your blood and gets around to the duct that goes from the liver to the small intestine, and is already starting to work on that. And then at around 8 o'clock, about 2 hours later, you do that same thing again. Pour about 3/4 cup out of the container of your Epsom salts mixture, and you go ahead and drink that again as well. So now it's around 8 o'clock, and you've done 2 doses of the Epsom salts mixture. So you want to save that last dose for later, and it may or may not be needed. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then at around 9:45, you follow this next procedure, which is kind of important to get right. So you take your half cup of olive oil. So we'll go ahead and measure that. Oh, and you need a container as well, something that you can shake with a lid on it, like this one. A mason jar works really, really well, but this container works just as well here. So you take a half a cup of olive oil. There we go. And pour that in. And then you take your 3/4 cup of grapefruit juice. And you pour that in. And then you want to seal up your container. And you can see it's separated here. The olive oil's on top and the grapefruit's on the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and put lids on these. And set those aside. So now we've got our mixture here of the olive oil and grapefruit juice. The reason you use grapefruit juice, it does make it taste a little bit better, but it also emulsifies the fat. And that is the fat that I was talking about previously that would cause the gallbladder to contract very aggressively. This is a fairly high dose of fat, more than you would get in many meals. So your gallbladder is going to squeeze really, really hard. If the duct that goes from the gallbladder to the small intestine is relaxed, it'll push all these gallstones out and that sort of thing. So next thing, around 10 o'clock, you go ahead and make sure that you shake this up really, really good. Now it's nice and mixed, and then you go ahead and drink this entire thing. Drink this down as quickly as you can. Some people drink it this way, some will use a straw. You want to get this down in about 15 minutes and not wait and lengthen it out a long, long time, or it may not make the gallbladder contract as forcefully as we want it to. So keep that in mind. And then now that you've done all this, really the hard part is over and you go to bed and try to go to sleep. Most people do not see anything change up until the next day. Some do, but the next thing that you'll usually notice, and some people see it when they get up first thing in the morning, but you may have some diarrhea. And that is normal for this cleanse, and it talks about that in the cleanse right down at the bottom. So be sure you've scheduled this properly and you're not going somewhere the next day, all right? You don't want to be having to go to work in the morning and that sort of thing. That being said, if you already have diarrhea when you wake up the next morning, you can skip that third dose of Epsom salts. If you don't, I usually recommend you take that to make sure that we're flushing all the gallstones out and that sort of thing. So that is how the liver cleanse works. Most of the time you start it at around 6 o'clock some evening, and you're usually done by noon or 2 o'clock the next day, and it's over with. So it's not even 24 hours. A large majority, probably 75% of my patients will see gallstones come out, and that's normal. And you can see these, they're kind of different colored and they're kind of roundish, and a lot of times they'll float because they're made of bile. Many patients I have had do this say, oh, that got rid of my migraines. If you are in a situation where you don't have a great diet, you may want to schedule this again in another month or two. I don't usually recommend it back-to-back weeks or anything like that. You want to give your body a little bit of time to recover from this. But some people need to do it twice. If you see a whole ton of gallstones in the toilet when you have diarrhea, you may want to schedule another one of these before too long down the road, like I say, a month or two. I hope this is helpful. It's something to schedule for sure, but it is very, very effective, and that's why I recommend it. So thanks for listening.